Greetings, everyone. Happy holidays. I'm super excited. This is the last show of 2022. So we're going to get into it. But before we do, I wanted to take this time in the beginning before we get started to remind everyone to go ahead and share the link. Share the link. And if you have a YouTube account, make sure that you log into it so that you can participate in the comments. And, we want to see, we want you to express yourself, ask any questions, and we want to get your feedback. So make sure that you're logged in. And all right, and then we'll get going. Want to make sure I turn down this volume, get a little feedback there. But welcome to the show, everybody. And I'm super excited. It's episode 4 of Talks with V. We are streaming here live with the HBCU Lounge Network, and we are starting our challenges category. So we had 3 categories for this season of women's healing. Just ended our relationship piece, and now we are stepping into the challenges and struggles category. So I'm very excited about that, and as well as this topic. And I wanted to discuss this topic, which is boss life and housewife. Can you have it all? And I know it's interesting that we still have to have this conversation in 2022, but there is a lot of shade that's being thrown, and it's thrown all different directions. And I'm just like, it's getting old, but we're not getting that shade, from men. We're getting it a lot of the times from other women. And I think that it's very important for us to support our sisters, regardless if they choose to go the same path as you or another path, but support and less shame and judgment. So that's why I want to have this conversation with these 3 beautiful ladies, because all of these ladies, I respect them. And I believe that they have a lot of great insight, and they all travel different, from different walks of life. And I'm just very excited to hear what they have to say. So welcome to all 3 of you. And I want to go ahead and give this opportunity for you guys to introduce yourselves to the audience so they know who you are. So I'll go ahead and start with Miss Wren.
Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Irenica Parson. My friends and family call me Ren. I am a graduate from UNLV, and I got my degree in human services. So my background is in child welfare. That is where my specialty is. I've done child protective services. I have done every daycare, you name it, and I have kids with friends. So I'm always working with the kids. So that's kind of my life goal is bettering the lives of children and others. And so that's kind of the path that I went down. I did retire from punching a clock in 2019. Um, and I was able to do that with the support of my husband, who we've been together. We've been together for 20 years, married for 18, going on 18 in February. And so that's me.
Yes. So welcome, Ren. Ren is actually a really good friend of my older sister, and I've got the opportunity to meet her and her husband, and they have a really great relationship. I love the dynamics, and so thank you so much for being here with us this evening. And next we have Miss LaShonda. LaShonda. I'm about to mix everybody's names up. Miss LaVonia.
Hello, B. Thank you for having me. My name is LaVonia Tryon. I am a author, a counselor, a coach, and a fellow journeyer. So I work in the mental health field. I'm a nationally certified counselor, a 4-time best-selling author. I work for the state of Texas as a counselor specialist, and I also work for myself, and I have my own business, and I do personalized therapy and trauma counseling. And I am single. I am actually divorced. I do not have children. And I'm speaking from the perspective of the counseling aspect of it and mental health aspect of it, but also the mindset of understanding what having it all really is. So I'm super excited about this talk.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for that, LaVonia. And I'm really happy to have you here as well because I got an opportunity. I met this one on Clubhouse, and I was like, I love her. I was like, we got to be friends, you know. And so, because I'm just like, oh, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling that. Yes, 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 you know,
Yes.
and the energy. And another thing is she had a kind of like a, you know, sister chat, sister circle, and that she would do it once every week, and it was just really nice just to have that chat with other women talking about things that are going on in our life, just supporting each other and just being sisters, you know. So I'm very, very, very happy to have you here with us this evening as well. And last but not least is Miss Neshaszda.
Yes. Thank you so much, V, for allowing me to be on the show today. I'm super duper excited to hear everybody's perspectives. I am Neshaszda Wright. I am an HBCU alumni for Albany State University. I studied education, but my career right now is I'm a retired veteran and I'm also a professional wedding photographer. So I do professional wedding photography full time. When I got out the military, I said, anything I do next, I'm going to be passionate about it because I just don't like to do things on a day-to-day basis that I'm not passionate about. My husband's in the military as well. That's where we met. And we have 2 kids, 6 and 7, a boy and a girl. So I think I'm done. I think I'm not going to push the button. I'm not going to push it. You know, I already have a boy and a girl. So I'm excited about them and just like really, you know, raising my family and putting my family first, you know, as well as my career and making sure that I'm a well-rounded individual as far as just like, you know, like you said, like having, you know, priorities. I think that main thing is just having priorities. But I'm excited to talk. Yeah, I'm a mompreneur overall, and I'm also an author. I'm a children's book author as well. I did 2 books in 2018 and 2019. So I'm really, really excited about and passionate about having children of color are represented in children's literature because, you know, going to my children's daycare, I would never really see a child of color in the books and, you know, things like that. So those are things I'm really, really passionate about. So yeah, I'm super duper excited to be here.
Yes, well, welcome, Neshaszda. Yeah, I've been following you for quite a bit, and I just really just felt inspired every time I like watch her videos or even her TikToks with her family, or just the relationship and seeing that progress with her and her husband, that they've been together for quite some time and their love story, but also just seeing that balance and like also that lovingness within the relationship. I know a lot of times on social media is kind of like hard to, it's like, oh, you can't really tell like if it's real, but it kind of seeps through, and I love that. I was like, oh, I want that kind of love, like where it just seeps through and they just care for each other. And I just love that. And then as well with the 2 little kids, and just like how, after that you tried me, I'm like, wow, like that's inspirational because I guess I'm that one in the middle where I feel like a lot of us are, where it's just like you want to have it all. And so it's kind of like, it's nice to see like, from to a certain extent that you can, that you can have a little of both, if you, want to, just see an example. So thank you so much again for being here. And we are going to go ahead and get right into it. Okay. So, boss life and housewife, can you have it all? Okay. So, all obviously is relative. But I just wanted to kind of, find out why is it that we still get so much shame, surrounded, by, our choices. If you choose to be a boss or entrepreneur, businesswoman, any, aspect of that, it's someone's got something to say, right? And if you choose to be a housewife, during these times, people, are judging you. And then if you choose you want to be a little bit of both, have a career and the family and the kids, or the husband and the kids, you're doing too much. So I wanted to pose a question first to you, Miss LaVonia. Why do you believe that there's so much shame and judgment still?
Thanks, V. I think that's a great question. I think that it really becomes a matter of, from my perspective, I think that it becomes a matter of maybe sometimes people aren't either happy with their own choices or because of the things that they're doing or the things that they see they've struggled with doing. It becomes easier to point the finger or look outward instead of fixing what's inward, right? And so when we say the concept of can you have it all, I think you can, but I think you have to define what all is for you, right? And I think the problem happens is that when we look at someone else's life and we consider that all, but then we look at our life and we see that we're lacking, even if we're doing some of those same things, whether it is mom life, mompreneur, whether it's you've chosen to, put your career first and you're waiting to have a family later, which we saw 20 years ago, the average age of, getting married was early 20s. Well, 30 years ago, early 20s. And now it's shifting up to about 28 to 30. And so this is the first marriages becoming this, that from the mindset. When I graduated from Baylor, there was the running joke that people are coming here for the MRS degree. Like they were coming to find their husbands or be found by their husbands and get married. That was their goal. Like the degree was secondary. Like it was like, I'm here to get married, right? And then now we've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, it's okay to shift this mindset of putting your business, like getting your business together, and then finding love, and then getting married and having kids. And so we're having kids at older ages. I have several of my friends that had their first children after the age of 35, and so I think the mindset becomes the shame comes around when we look at someone else's life and we find that ours is lacking, as opposed to saying, hey, this is the choices that I made. And this is how I want to define what it all looks like and what success looks like for me. So I think the mindset is really where the shame comes from, is when you're looking at someone else's life and you're comparing it to your own, and you feel like either they're in front of the curve or you're behind the curve. And that's a way, to kind of gauge it. A funny story, I'm gonna probably shouldn't tell you how old I was, but I used to park my car remember where my car was based on the cars that were beside me. And so as I tell y'all this, your wheels are probably turning like, sis, okay? So I would park and I would say blue van, white car, blue van, white car, blue van, white car, go into Walmart, come back out, and no blue van or no white car. Where's my car? And so my car moved.
What?
Uh-oh, it froze.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Okay. All right, let's see. Uh-oh, she froze.
There we go. Uh-oh.
She's back. It froze on you. Okay.
Yeah, it froze.
So blue van, white car.
Car moved.
We can't hear.
Are you on mute? No, we can't. It's okay. You just drop off. I think you can drop off and drop back in, and it should.
Oh, I think that's right there.
Okay. Okay. Well, she pops off because she'll come back. She'll be back. But I did want to open it up for the other ladies. What's your perspective on that? Why there's still so much shame, at least in your experience. So, Maria, yeah, go ahead.
Well, my opinion in that is, it's so much shame. There's not shame, and what it is that we as a culture have now, we want to keep up with the Joneses, and we want to be the best, and we want to have the best, and we've become so, especially like with social media. What am I doing right now? We've become very egotistical as a culture now, and that's not just black women or black men or anything like that. It's just in general, as a people, we've become very egotistical. And when you look at it, when you go back to like what LaVonia was saying, is where the shame comes in is when you don't feel like you measure up. And if you don't feel like you measure up, then you want to make yourself feel better. So now you're throwing shame on somebody else's opinions in life. And the reality is it's all the same. It's all relative. It's about you
Mhm.
and your life and what you want for your life and the choices and decisions that you make and
Mhm.
how that fits with you and yours, not in comparison to somebody else. I tell my daughter all the time, you're not in competition with anybody but the person you were yesterday.
Mm.
And as
I
long as
love
you keep
that.
that perspective, then then there's no reason for throwing shade. And so that's where I really think it stems from, is that as a culture we are now becoming very, very egotistical, very self-centered, very selfish in our
Mhm.
thought process and our mind process. And so this all the shade stuff, it all begins with your mindset, which I think is what LaVonia was a point that she was trying to make.
Yes, definitely. Well, Amaya, welcome back. We want to go ahead and let you finish your
I'm
point.
so sorry, y'all. Can y'all hear me now? So sorry.
Yes.
This would not be 2020, like the century that 2020 has been, right? If there wasn't technology problems. So I apologize. So the last point that I was just making is that when I park my car, I would park it based on the cars that were next to me, right? And any person with common sense would realize how that does not work, because if that person comes out of the store and leaves before I do, now my car is lost, right? And so it took one night of riding the golf cart around a mall trying to find my car to realize this is probably not the best strategy. But that's what we do in life, is that we put our markers based on how someone else is doing. And then when they move, or when they go, they hit this status, then we feel like, oh, we're too far behind. And then we're constantly looking at this other person and saying, oh, I got to stay, at least I'm not as bad as this person, right? And what Ren was just saying is exactly right. The only person worthy of my competition is who I was yesterday. And if we have that mindset, and I actually have that on my mirror in my bathroom, because it's that reminder to say social media is someone's highlight reel. And even if it's the people who are the realest people in the world, we still don't get a peek behind every single thing that happens in their
Right.
life, right? And so the only thing that you can do, the shame comes from when I compare myself to someone and I say, I want their life, as opposed to me saying, I'm happy and I'm blessed with where I am. And if there's something that I don't like about my life, I don't compare it to someone else, I simply change it, right?
Exactly.
And that's how we release that shame.
Love it. Love it. Ms. Neshaszda, you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think they hit it. I think they hit it on the head. To be honest with you, I think that. Can you refresh the question one more time so I can remember?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question was just simply like, why do you think that there's still so much shame? Like, it's so crazy because I read this stat about basically women being in the workforce and continuing to grow for the last 60 plus years. So it's kind of like, why is it a question mark if a person, I mean, if a woman decides that she wants to focus on her career, like she's human, and it seems natural, like if you're good at something and it's your passion, for you to want to go full force and be all that you can be in that. And I don't know, I don't think it's the strangest thing in the world that you might pick that over people, or over like a family, because there's some people who I know who are like, I personally could be single forever, and because they like their solitude. So if you have a passion, or a career or something, you're an adventure, it just doesn't seem like that far-fetched. But yeah, so the question is, why is there still so much shame and judgment around different choices, as far as for women, the path that they choose?
Yeah, I think being a woman is already hard enough.
Yeah.
We're always being judged on every chapter of our lives, and we're on a time clock. So, we feel like we have to have certain things done by a certain age because of health issues or because of this and that. So I just feel like women aren't supposed to be programmed to do certain things by certain times. And if you don't have it done, like, oh, well, where's your man at? Or dang, why you don't have no kids yet? Or and things like that. And it's like, women don't, it's priorities. Every woman does not have to be a mom. Every woman does not have to have a huge career to be successful. Every woman doesn't have to be married. And sometimes, like we said, priorities. It just depends on what your priorities are. I think it's a lot about how you were brought up. I think sometimes people's experiences growing up, it kind of deters them from doing certain things based off of fear or based on, not wanting my life to end up like this. Like you said, like we're comparing, your life to others and things like that. So I think that the reason why there's so much shame is because people judge women for everything we do, especially
Absolutely.
Black women, because we can get judged by our hairstyles down to our bodies and down to what we want to spend our money on. And I think that nowadays women do prioritize their careers, because I think that it's been going on for so long where even women in general just had to depend on the man for a better life, or depend on a man to, have a better livelihood. And I think nowadays, like, wow, we have the power to change that, and we can make our own money. And I think it's important for women to have their own money, regardless if you're married or not. You still should have your little bank account on the side at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? You should still have your own money. You know what I'm saying? No matter if you are married or not. I think independence is very important, because I think a lot of women have just always gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to traditional things, traditions nowadays. I just think they don't age well. And we kind of see that we're looking like, at women who gave their lives to men for 30 plus years, and all they're left with is nothing. They're left with nothing. And then the man runs off and, is with another young woman and it's just like women are just left with, I don't know. It's a lot. I think it's a lot with the age piece. I think it's a lot with the age piece. But I'm rambling. But at the end of the day, I think it's a lot to do with priorities and time clocks with women.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about that, it's several things I think about. But if we could just, if everyone was rich and they could just save their eggs and put them somewhere and be like, I'll be right back type thing. They would. I think there would be a lot more people who would do that. And then it wouldn't be so much stress. It wouldn't be so much, just so many things, that I feel like we get bombarded with and just overwhelmed with because of that time clock thing. And because, men don't have to really think about it. It's not like something that has to constantly be on their mind. They just one day fall in love with you and decide that they want to have a life, but they're not thinking like, they're not thinking about your eggs. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but yeah, LaVonia, I did want you to speak on the perspective of how this may affect the mental health of women, if they choose, whatever path that they choose. Because I know too, you had shared with me that you were married before, and you would like to be married again in the future, but you decided you didn't want to have kids, right? Did I remember that? Okay. Yeah. And so it's like, it's all these little pieces, because there's not just these three, options. It's a little tailored, right? So from your perspective and, Clint, your research and, your profession, how is that affecting the mental health, our mental health? Because it stressed me out, I'll tell you.
I think again, until you have a very strong sense of self-worth and self-identity and know what it is that you want, then you're going to constantly get pulled at all of these society's mindsets or their persona of where you should be right now, right? Mm-hmm. And we can say, especially around the holidays, right? When you're going home, if you're a mother, then it's, why are you raising your kids this way? And why are your kids doing this? Or why aren't they doing this? If you're a mom and an entrepreneur or a mompreneur, you have a business or you have a job, then it's, oh, well, are you spending too much time away from your kids? And it's your daycare raising your kids, or I've seen even the mindset of when a dad changes a diaper, they are praised. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother conversation, right? And so it's like, or hearing a father say, oh, I'm babysitting the kid. No, those shows. You're not babysitting, baby. That's called parenting. Right, and so, but as a woman, it's like, we get this kind of mindset. So mentality wise, and then the mindset of if you don't have children yet, or if you don't want children, then there's something that's less than, right? And then that's a whole nother mindset that comes. And what I don't like, what I hate is I always tell people, stay out of my uterus. Like, that is literally my tagline, like, stay out of my uterus, because it becomes to this point that your mindset is like, you get to have this opinion on someone else's desires or goals or whatever. And if you're by a certain age and you're not married yet, you're not settled down, you don't have children, and God forbid you don't want children or you don't want to birth children, then you're seen sometimes as lesser than. So I think that mentally it can take a toll on people until we become very sure. It took a while for me to become very confident in saying that yes, I desire marriage. I would love to be a stepmother or foster children or adopt. But as far as birthing children, I have no desire, and I do not like. I didn't get to 40 and not have a child by accident. And so that was a choice that I made, but it took a long time for me to be comfortable enough to verbalize that choice, knowing that other people's opinions were going to be given to me unsolicited.
Right.
And so I think that as a woman, what you have to do is whatever your choice is make that choice for yourself, however that looks, and then stand behind that decision and know that other people's opinions are just that. They're their opinions. But the same way, someone says, well, when are you going to have another baby? When are you going to have another child?
Right.
I charge for opinions over around here. So if you asking me when I'm going to have a child or when I'm going to get married, when you going to pay for something, because it becomes that point. It's like, okay, people want to control your life as far as it is. They're able to give that opinion, but when it comes down to the consequences or what that adds to your life for that, then they're nowhere to be found. So I think that's the biggest thing is being comfortable, is figuring out what it is that you want, right? And what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to give up or to keep in order to do that. And then becoming very comfortable and confident in that, no matter what anybody else's opinion comes up.
I love that. I love that. Yep. Just protect your mental health. Okay. Your peace. All right. Well, for our next question, Rena, I'm going to go ahead and throw it to you. I wanted to kind of go around about and find out what motivated you all's decision. So, Ren, what motivated your decision to choose your path? Oh, we got you. I think you're on mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So there wasn't a thing that just motivated me. I am who I am, and I like what I like, and I went after what I am and what I like. And as a result of that, I was blessed enough to find a husband who was evenly like-minded, and we had similar goals, similar values, and things like that. And so we work, and it is his happiness is important to me. So it is important that I do the things that make him happy. And so if there are ways that I can adjust my thought process or my behaviors or things like that, then I want to do those things because that's what makes him happy. If there is a goal or something that he wants to accomplish, then I want to do my stuff, but I also want to make time with supporting him and doing his. And likewise, I get that same support from him. So when you go back to the overall question of can you have it all? Yes, you can have it all, but you have to know what you want, and you have to be willing to accept what comes with what you want.
Right.
You don't get to say, I want to be married, but I don't want to cook and I don't want to clean and I don't want this and I don't want that. Or you could, but then you have to find somebody whose values are the same as yours, who closes the loop for you, so that you can do those things or not do those things, right? You want to focus on your career. I want kids, but I want to be able to focus on my career. I have a man. That's okay. I want you to go for your career, and we'll get the nanny, and that's the lifestyle, and it works for us. Who am I to make judgment on how often you are home with your kids? Maybe your kids don't care. Right? Maybe they like their independence, and so they like that mommy and daddy isn't home all the time. And so you have to do what fits for you and the structure that you create, because it's your life and no one else has to live that. And so as long as you are happy in your choices and you are willing to accept whatever sacrifices or blessings that come with it, then then what are we really complaining about?
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. And one of the young ladies who was going to be on, she got COVID. The whole family got COVID. It seemed like, and so she had to tend to that. And her husband was, I think, first to get his test was positive, and so she had to make sure he's okay. But she had mentioned when we were speaking about it, she was just like, I wanted to mention the fact that she doesn't consider herself just a housewife. She considers herself a wife, right? And I was just like, that's such a great point, because the role when you are a wife, you're still doing all these things. Even if you decide, your husband, you're blessed. Let me say that again, blessed to have a husband that is able to provide, be the sole provider. That is a blessing, just in case people didn't know it.
Right.
But if you're blessed enough to have that, opportunity, and that's what you guys both want, you're still doing a lot, as as a stay-at-home mom. I had to really think about that. Like, could I do that 100%? Like, no, because I'd be busy. I want to create. I want to, empower, women. So there would be a level of, I'd be working and doing the, my duties, my wifely, my motherly duties, and, honoring my family. And so, but she had mentioned that she's just like, I'm a wife, so as a wife, I support my husband with his business and do basically all the administrative stuff that I would be doing if I was at work, but I'm doing it for my husband and to support the family. So I wanted to bring that back up.
That's definitely what it is. I work from home. I'm not, and like you said, your the other guest that was supposed to be on, she was, well, I'm a wife first, but see, I'm not. I'm Ren. That's who I am. I'm Ren. And Ren is married, so Ren is a wife, and Ren has a daughter, so Ren is also a mom, and Ren owns her own business, so I am also a business owner. And so those are things that are their accolades for me. They are not, they none of any one of those individual things defines who I am. I am me.
That's important. Remember.
And that's important. And it's important to remember that, because what happens is we take on these titles and then we lose who we are.
Yeah.
And that's where the mental health comes into play.
Yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to say that really quickly, like, Ren, I love that, because that's so true. Identity first, right? I am me first. All of these other things are roles that are added to me, right? They're roles either that I choose or that chose me, or however that looks. They're all roles, but they don't define me. My individuality, my personality, my identity puts the spin onto each one of those roles, right? Because a mother is a mother, that's a role, but there's so many different parenting styles, right? A wife, you may have a wife that doesn't cook and clean, but her husband cooks and clean. You have a wife that, that the husband is a stay-at-home, dad, and she's the one that's doing, you have all these different dynamics. And if we put into the mindset of understanding that this is roles and not my identity, then when a role shifts or changes, then you're not so, you hear of stories where athletes or people like that, their whole identity was wrapped into this certain thing. And then what they do, exactly. And so when that's gone, then, suicide or depression or whatever. But if you know who you are, and then you're able to take on those roles, then it becomes such a healthier place, a healthier space to live in.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point too. And when you mention that, it's always going to come back to that mental health piece too, because it's a constant, thing, right? To be mindful of. But yeah, absolutely. Even sometimes at the let me see real quick, Pop. I think that you have some of it all, but it's impossible to really have it all, because what you have requires time and maintenance. And there's only so much you can do or, get around to it. And that is very true. But I was going to state with when you're a parent, right? I just remember one of my friends, their mom was a stay-at-home mom, But she was really, so that's why I love what you said, Ren. Like, I'm Ren first, right? So you're not losing track of that. But she was a stay-at-home mom, and when he graduated, she was just crying like so hard, like because he was going away to college. She was crying so hard, like it was just the end. And like, I think that when I moved, my mom was, like sad or whatever. Because I was like, how come you didn't cry for me? She was like, I didn't. Right? Because I was like, I want to see you have tears, like my baby. No, but with his mom, she was just falling apart, and it was because he was her whole life. She completely like lost herself, like in her child, and that sucks because it's just kind of like, I would imagine that that's not good for your mental health, because now you got to figure out who you are now that your kids, are gone, away to college, or when they get married, you know what I mean? And so no judgment at all, but I know that I think that, that can be really hard on you if you get lost in it and lose who you are,
Mhm.
So love what you said, Rand. And Neshaszda, I would like to give you the opportunity too to add to this. Trying to think, what was the question we were talking about so much, but why you chose to do to your path.
Yeah, I mean, I'm real big on, self-identity and knowing who you are. I'm real big on, you know, being a wife, being a mom, but also not losing yourself in the mix of it, because at the end of the
Yes.
day, you have to be happy first. You have to be, thriving in your own life as well. So I think, you want to give and you want to support your family and support your husband and support your kids, but you also have to support yourself, because I feel like the mom is the heart of the home. And if you're not happy, if you're not thriving and, doing something that you're passionate about, then everybody around you is not going to be thriving and,
Right.
inspiring, things like
We
that.
affect it
So
all. Mm-hmm.
yeah, not losing yourself. And I think it's all about time management and balance, priority.
That
I
was
think
gonna be my question too, with
yeah,
that, with as you explained. How do you
yeah,
balance it all? Yes.
yeah. I think that with me balancing, like, I think that when I turned 30, I had to realize that friends weren't really my priority anymore. It was
Mhm.
more so raising my kids and maintaining my marriage.
Mm.
Because having a husband is a whole nother game. It's not like you can just have him show up, hey, and then move on with your life. Like, you have to maintain, you have to talk, you have to build your relationship every single day. So if he's feeling neglected, that's more work for me. So just maintaining that relationship, maintaining my kids, showing up for my kids, because kids, they're real big on time. They
Mm-hmm.
really notice when you're not there, and you can feel the disconnect when they're not there. When you're not there. So when you're showing up to certain things, or maybe you haven't just hung out with them and just literally watch TV with them for 30 minutes, it really goes a long way. Like, I literally see my kids' eyes light up when I just sit down and play with them for like 15 minutes. And sometimes you just get so caught. Sometimes I got so caught up in my work that I kind of was like, doing motherly duties, but in like, I just got lost in the motion of it. And I kind of lost you know,
That connecting
the
part.
connecting point, the time that it takes to really just, I literally wrote on my vision board that I'm going to play with my kids for 1 hour. It sounds like, okay, of course you're going to play with your kids for 1 hour, but to literally strategically play hide and seek, sit
Be
there,
intentional.
watch
Yeah.
them draw and things like that. Like, that small amount of time goes a long way. And I just realized that, pouring my time and effort into my kids and my career and my husband is always going to be worth the investment.
Yeah.
I think friends kind of like come and go, and I think friends have different seasons in your life. And I think sometimes maintaining a friendship is just as hard as maintaining like a marriage. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes friends is just a little distraction a little bit for me, because I feel like sometimes they not necessarily can hold you back, but you can kind of get caught up in their problems and then kind of forget about your own life. Not in the sense that you're actually forgetting about it, but if they're not on the same, if they don't have the same things going on, like if your friends are still single, or if your friends don't have a husband and things like that, and you're on the phone with your friend, and then like your husband and your kids are at the table eating dinner, you're over here trying to kiki, like, it's just not a wise investment of my time. And I think that I'm real big on my time, because you don't ever get your time back. So,
Absolutely.
I really, really am big on just balancing my time and balancing my priorities. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great point. But what you mentioned, your friend, the last show we were talking about frenemies. And so just understanding like who are your real friends. And I do think that when you have real friends, they understand,
Mhm.
they respect it because they respect you. So it's why wouldn't they want your marriage and your family to be thriving if they're your real friend, right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
And
No,
sometimes they don't even realize that they sometimes it's not even them, it's more so just how much time. I think just having boundaries is huge.
yeah, it's
Just
true.
having those boundaries, like, hey y'all, all right, well girl, I'm gonna call you back later. Like I think my boundaries were kind of like not really set to be like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm not gonna answer the phone after a certain time, or just not always being available. I think that's just
yeah,
huge. So, but I love
absolutely.
having friends because I do think it's important to have your own life and have your
Yeah,
own social life as well, because men love when you have your own life. They don't want you just to be all up in their face all the time. They like when you have your own life and okay, I'm going to do this with my friends. See you later. Like that makes it fun. Give it a little
right,
thrill. You don't always want to be there and available. You just want to always kind of keep it fresh and
right.
know that I have my own life too. So you
Yeah,
know, you know,
absolutely. Because he's gonna want to have his time in his
yeah,
man cave or go out, and get a couple, watch the game,
yeah,
get some beers,
space.
some drinks. So yeah, absolutely. I think that that's very important
Yeah,
to so that as we were talking about, not losing that identity, you know,
yeah.
losing yourself in it. All right, so next question. What are some of the misconceptions about the decision that you made? So, LaVonia, I'll go ahead and take it to you. What are some of the misconceptions about, anything that you pick up that, maybe it's not necessarily what everybody else, they have an opinion about? What are some of the misconceptions about that?
Well, I think one of them, and I saw it in the chat where someone was talking about how even just asking a person about children is such a loaded question, right? It's such a,
Mhm.
first of all, like personal question, an insensitive question to ask someone, when are you going to have a kid, or when are you going to have more kids, or where are you going to have, that kind of thing, because there's infertility, there's so many things that go on there. There's miscarriage. You don't know what's happening.
Mhm.
Again, stay out of my uterus, like that kind of. So I think
Right.
that misconception is that because a person lets you into a part of your life, that you have to let them into all of your life, right? And so I think that that's a misconception of that mindset, to that you get to have an opinion about what their life looks like, right, behind
Mhm.
closed doors. I think that's a misconception, no matter how involved you are in that person's life, whether it's a friend, family member, whatever that looks like. At the end of the day, when you close that door, it's you, your husband, your kids, yourself, whoever
Right.
your nucleus is, then that's who gets to make the decisions in that family. And so I think that's a misconception, is
Yeah.
that that you get that opinion, but also the misconception of that um, something is, I don't say wrong with you if you choose one path or the other,
Right.
that it's a competition between them, right?
Right.
That you can't be um like having it all. Like I said at the very beginning, I do believe you can have it all, but you have to define what your all is, right?
Right.
Because if I say I have it all, I can have it all, and then I end up having a child, but I don't really want a child, and I don't
Mhm.
really want to be a mother,
Mhm.
then we've all seen movies or heard of movies or whatever that
Right.
looks like, where someone has a child that is not loved and not cared for, right?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
the flip side of it, I know we know the movie Love and Basketball. When you
Mhm.
think about the mom and how Monica, the daughter, how she viewed the mom, and then at the end where the mom tells her that my success was y'all's success, like
Mhm.
being at every game was my success for you all, being able to have a hot meal on the table for my
Mhm.
kids, that was my success. And so I think that's the misconception, is um that because you put your all into this one role or this
Mhm.
one aspect, um like that my success is less than your success, right?
Right.
Like they're not a comparison.
Yeah.
And what I define as my success is what makes me happy, and what makes me happy, and that mindset, I think, is the case.
Well, thank you.
Then, sorry, huh?
Oh, no. If you had another one, I didn't know if you had
No.
another one. I was going to say, I was like, that's a good point.
Like, and the last one I would say, as the single friend, and Neshaszda, I don't want to say your name wrong, but Neshaszda, I love it because I feel like I'm kind of on the flip side of that, being the single friend. I do have a lot of my friends are married and have kids, and and so I saw this meme a couple of weeks ago on Instagram, and it was like, the person, it was like, it said, when you call your friend to vent, but they got kids or something, right? And so they're yelling at the kids in the background, and they're like, okay, I'll call you back. And I feel like that's my life a lot. And so, but I love it because, one, I mean, they're your kids, right? And two, I am that single friend that, you can't call me back. It's cool. Yeah. Go put your family first. Go prioritize your family first. We can talk later, or even that, I know when I'm on the phone with my friends that have small kids, that this conversation is a threefold, because they're going to be talking to 4 or 5, people in the background while they're kind of having that communication with me. And as the single friend,
or even LaVonia too. Sometimes the husband, you'd be like, your girlfriend, she's like, mind your business. She is talking to me. But it's a whole 3-way conversation.
Exactly. Right. So we understand, and we're okay with it. And I think if you are that friend, you do understand that you're okay with that aspect as well. So I think for me, those are some of the misconceptions that I think that once we open our understanding, we can all kind of get to that point.
Because I think sometimes, like, it's weird that sometimes, like, friends have different seasons, because of course when you first met your friend, you guys are both single, you guys are trying to figure life together, and then seasons start to change, things change, the dynamics change in friendships. So sometimes it is hard to kind of like pivot and like have a new relationship with your friends. So I think kind of recognizing when it's time to pivot and like still grow as a friend,
right, evolving
in a different way. So it's just I think it's different. I think sometimes friends don't know how to pivot, or it doesn't seem the same, so it's not fun anymore, so maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore because we don't got nothing in common. So I think it just takes it's like a catch-22. Like, sometimes friendships last and sometimes they don't, So.
Well, I wanted to add too, maybe as well, I think the healthy, well, I'm not the doctor or a therapist or anything like that. And without the degree, I'm the therapist without the therapist degree. But I was going to say, too, sometimes it may be important, or all the time, to mourn that version of your relationship, because it's just kind of like, kids, when things change, they get sad about the change. One of their friends moves away, but it's like, you still get to be friends. You get to call, you're going to get to visit. It's just going to be different, And I think that that's the same thing, like when your friends have a kid or they get married. I mean, depending on the people, like, I love kids. So I'm just like, great. Now I can have, a little child here, because all my nieces and nephews, they're all back home. And so I'm like, oh, yes, I'm going to like be obsessed, with your child. But just getting that, like, grieving this portion of it and being, giving it, mourning it the way it needs to be, and this, you can move on and evolve and, embrace this new version of your friendship. So I thought that was
it's a conversation, right? I think that's like Neshaszda said about the boundaries. Sometimes it is a conversation. For me, I was able to flow in that aspect. But I have some friends, like when I was married, I had a friend group that kind of went through that mindset because they were all single and I was with that single aspect. And then when I got married, it became, oh no, I can't, do this, or, oh, well, let me, talk to my husband and see. And that was a shift, right? And so some of those friendships didn't shift very well. So I think that you have to understand, one, there are seasons of friendships. And then two, like you said, like if this is a friend that started when we were both in one life status, and then we shift in that area, then it does become a conversation. It becomes a, hey, my kids go down at this time for a nap. So if you call me during this time frame, I'm not going to answer the phone because I need them to, or whatever. Or this is the time that they're getting home from school and I'm I want to be available for them at that time frame. And setting those boundaries that are there, I think
Get structured.
yeah. And
But
then it
you're
takes
getting
away
the structure
pressure,
you
and
didn't
now we
have
can
probably
move.
before. It's like, this is the structure I needed. It's gonna prepare me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, but Ren, yeah, so I wanted to ask you with some the misconceptions about you being a housewife and doing everything else that you're doing.
So I
The
guess
biz-
I also saw one of your subscribers who had put a question up about the term submissive and why we get so offended by
Triggered
the
or
word.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe that that ties into a misconception as well, in
Mm.
that when I became married and when I decided to put my focus on my household, that that my husband now controls me, and he has to allow me to have a friend, and allow me to go out and allow me to do this and allow me to do that, and it's just not true. And
Right.
but that is where the offense in that term comes from, is because the misconception of the word. People think that when the Bible talks about being submissive, we look at that like what he was saying, that women are supposed to be slaves and subservience, and that's just not what that word means, right?
They never read the
And
whole thing.
no, right, just the bit and part that fits our narrative, right? And so that's not what this is. And so for anybody that is being offended, I mean, really, let the record straight. Yes, my husband is the head of the household. He makes the rules and we follow them. However, it is not without him considering his families and our thoughts and our opinions and what's important to us. And because I know that for my husband, he is going to always put me and his family first, then I can freely give that submission to him. And I don't have to worry about it. And there is safety in that for me. There is comfort in that for me, because I know that he's going to handle his part. And so I can let go of these other things so that I can do what I want to do, which is nurture my household, make my house a home, and and help my daughter to be the best, to grow into the best woman that she can be, and things like that. If I don't go out, not because he doesn't let me, I don't go out because I don't want to, because I prefer to be in my household. I prefer to spend time with my mate. I prefer to spend time with my family. And then there are times when I do want to, and on those occasions I go out, not because he let me, but because that's what I wanted to do,
Right.
And so that's where that misconception is that, oh, well, you get married and now he owns you. No, he don't own me, but we are in a partnership, and with
Yeah.
partnerships comes sacrifice, and it's a give and take on both ends. And so that's that misconception that submissive means that I have given up control of my life, and that's just not the case.
Absolutely. And shout out to the people in relationships where it's easy to submit to their partner. Shout out. Shout out.
Submission is about trust, right?
Yeah.
Like a woman does not have a problem submitting to a man who she trusts as his decision making, and that's
Absolutely.
exactly what Ren just described. When you like, especially as a Black woman, as a woman of color, like we want somebody else to come in and be able to like
Take care of
we
something.
tired of having to honey, take it over. But it has to be. I know that when he makes a decision, that he's already thought of me. He's already thought of the family. He's already thought of the consequences. He's already worked this through. And so because I know that when he makes a decision, then I can trust that I don't have to go back and forth. And it doesn't matter. And that's the thing, is when he makes the decision, typically it's okay, let's have this conversation. Yes, you have the final word in this because I trust your decision making, but it's not like he comes in and says, hey, God told me we're moving to Africa and we're gonna live in a X, Y, and Z. Like, wait a minute, bro. And so, but it's the you can trust that it's in line with his character, right? And I think the reason that we get triggered from the word submission is because we're actually dealing with a man that we don't trust. Like I was talking to one of my my journeyers, is who I call my clients, and I told her, and I was like, we will marry a person that we wouldn't loan $100 to.
It's crazy.
Like, you know, so you get into this mindset, because marriage is the goal sometimes for some of us that have been single for quote unquote longer than we wanted to have been. And
Mhm.
so we don't really trust this person. So then submission is very scary when
Right.
when you can't trust the person. But when you can trust this person, and you know, if your faith is in God, and you know this person has that same faith or that same belief system, then it's easier to breathe and
Absolutely.
allow that person to make decisions on behalf of the household, because you know that person ultimately is thinking of you. So you got his back because he got yours, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I,
Well,
I was
oh,
gonna
yeah.
say for misconceptions for me, I would say is one, that they think it's easy to, be a wife, be an entrepreneur, and be a
Mhm.
mom. I think people kind of underestimate how much work it actually takes to balance it all. And a lot of
Mhm.
single friends maybe they may say, "Oh, I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have like 10 kids." Like and they don't realize that it does require a lot of work. Like sometimes I think they look at the bright side of things, like, "Oh, it's so cute. Y'all look cute, date night, like cherries on top, like the frosting." But, it's really not about that. It's really about growing with somebody, forgiving somebody time and time again, and,
Mhm.
really having that communication open to hear
Yeah.
each other. Because I think sometimes you can get caught up in just talking and wanting to be understood, but
Right.
you really have to sit there and try to understand where they're coming from too. So I think that just takes a whole nother mindset to really like
Yeah.
listen and be understood. So I think the misconception for me, I think they think it's easy. Some of my clients don't even realize I have kids. So I'm over here like traveling every weekend and pumping these weddings out and giving people their galleries and things like that. And I'm just like, at the same time, I'm over here like have my daughter in my lap on the computer trying to do this and
Right.
try to, say hey to my husband and, cook a meal. It's like, it's a lot of work.
Right.
So, I think that knowing what you're signing up for is a big deal. And like I told V, I read Proverbs 31 every night for like
Mhm.
6 months because I wanted to be a wife. So my mindset was like, if I read Proverbs 31 every night, which is what God thinks a perfect wife is, then
I'll
I'll
become
start
that.
to become that.
Right.
So I'm like, you go to school, you read, and you become a doctor, you become this. So I'm like, let me try to become a wife. So I think that
I love it. Mhm.
preparing for your season and what you actually want is very important. And then the last thing I would say is, dang, I forgot the second point. But pretty much the misconception is that it's actually easy to be a wife, be an entrepreneur, and be a mom.
Right. No, that absolutely. You said it, girl. Um, but I wanted to, I guess, yeah, we're getting close to the hour here. But maybe we can kind of go through them quicker. I mean, like a little quicker for this next question. And that is what is it possible to have both, in your opinion? And then the next question is your advice, to someone who wants to follow the same path as you. So you can kind of just go right on into it. I'll let you do Neshaszda because I was coming to you. Uh,
Okay.
why am I calling you Neshaszda?
Shay Money. Call me Shay Money.
Girl, Shay, yeah, Shay Money. Like I think that this someone I know is. I'm just mixing up the ne and I have Anya, and I'm like, okay, my mind is somewhere. Maybe they need me. Maybe they need me right now. I don't know. But
Right.
okay, Neshaszda, you can share with us. What would you have to offer someone who wants to follow your same, path, and also. Um, Oh, I guess I had a few more questions. I guess we just been talking, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So back it up. What are some of those sacrifices that you had to make for your decision? And what would be your advice to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Um, so I would say a sacrifice that I had to make was really investing time in what I wanted. I think
Mhm.
taking the time to get to know yourself, and that means really knowing what you like, what you don't like, what you expect, what you're going to allow, and setting that standard up front. I think a lot of people just kind of go with what everybody's telling them to do, but really knowing who you are is a huge deal. And I think for me, I'm huge in my faith. So you got to know who you are, but you got to know who you are in God. You got to pray, and you got to know your purpose on earth. So if you don't know your purpose, and you don't know, if you don't have like some type of foundation to where you're meditating, you're praying, you're actually asking God, like, hey, what do I need to be doing in this season? A guidance, wisdom is very important. So I think that really knowing who you are is the most important thing for any season in your life. But I would say for advice, I think praying is huge. That's the reason why me and my husband are still together to this day, is because we prayed. We actually really sat down, joined a church, and actually prayed, read the Bible together. And I think that gave us peace and a strong foundation, because I think the foundation is like, if you don't have a foundation on what you stand on, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So, not letting your flesh lead you all the time, and kind of just really standing strong in your faith and knowing your standards. When I first met my husband, I told him, like, yeah, we're not having sex. Like, period. Like, I just, when I first met him, like, yeah, we're not going to have sex. And I knew that once you give, like, I think once you, my experience, I think once you have sex with somebody, before marriage, yeah, it's cool. And sometimes it works out, but I think that guys start acting up a little bit. And you kind of can have them in the palm of your hand if you don't give that portion up, because guys are like dogs a little bit. You can't really give them the candy. You can't give them the candy. They're not going to work for the candy no more. So
don't get these men mad here.
I'm just saying. But at the end of the day, what I did to become a wife was I prayed and I read Proverbs 31 every night for 6 months when I joined the military. And I told, like I said before, I set the mindset that if I read Proverbs 31 every night, I'll start to become a wife, and I'll know what it takes and what is required. And then what I am, I'm going to start to become it, and then I'm going to attract what I want. So if I become a wife, then I'll attract a husband. A lot of times you attract what you portray. So, you're with that energy you're pushing out, you don't even realize it. Whatever you're attracting, that's what you're putting out. So I started to put out those, and for lack of better terms, like wifey vibes. My mindset changed about what a wife was. It wasn't just about the flowers and roses. It was about providing. It was about being there. It's about, being present and raising a family and things like that. So that's one thing, is just really keeping God first, reading the Bible, and just knowing what you stand on.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, Miss Red, sacrifices that you had to make for the path that you chose, and what would your advice be for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
So the sacrifices have to do with putting aside your wants or delaying your wants and desires for the people that you love and you care about, whether it's your husband, whether it's your kids, whether it is a partner, whoever it is, and whatever you title that, it is the sacrifice is, I really want to do this, but instead of doing this, I'm going to do that because this makes them happy, right? When you make the others around you, people don't give enough credit to how good it makes you feel when you have made somebody else happy. When you have helped somebody else accomplish, something that they thought that they couldn't. And so when you give of yourself freely, then the blessings come back on you. And it's not to say, well, let me do this so that I can get a blessing.
Right.
But it is, when you give of yourself freely, then you get those blessings back. And I can't really drive that point home enough as giving of yourself and not and getting rid of the selfish and the egotistical and the all about me's and the self-centeredness. And if you set those things aside and you give of yourself and you help motivate others and you help encourage others, then things will kind of align itself with you, and those things that you thought were super hard to do or super hard to accomplish or impossible will just kind of fall into place. You definitely need to communicate with your partner and your friends. Know who you are, know what you want, and know how to articulate that and express that to people around you. Because what you'll find is that the people who really love and care about you will want to give those things to you in return, especially if you are a person who does that so freely for others.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. LaVonia. Have you last? The refresher question is, what are some of the sacrifices that you had to make, one or two of the sacrifices you had to make for the path that you chose? And what would be your advice for someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Right. Well, I think the sacrifice, one, when you do put your career and your business first, is that you are sacrificing either whether if you desire to have children or have that marriage, that family unit, the way that looks like, then you're sacrificing that for that time frame, whether it's forever or whether it's period, right? You do sacrifice sometimes that ideal family unit, whatever that looks like for yourself. I think that there are times where I do, come home and I do want that. I do sometimes wish that I had that someone to take the load off of me, one for
Mhm.
that I could submit to, but also someone just that genuinely that has that common goal and that common interest for me, right? So I think sometimes that is a sacrifice that has been made if you put off or if you're single in that aspect as well. So going back to the having it all is desiring um, the things that you desire. Sometimes you have to put one thing in more of a priority than the other, than the others. Like if you're desiring that family and that marriage, then you do the things that you need to do in order to maintain or to obtain that family and marriage. If you're desiring to get to a certain level of your career or your lifestyle, that before you bring in a family, whatever that looks like, then those are sacrifices that you're going to make too. So I think for me, those were the sacrifices that I made. And then I chose that I would not have a child until, of course, I got married. I didn't get married until I was almost 35, and then only to be divorced 4 years later and not have a child. I was grateful that I did not have a child with that man. But that was so then my dynamics 20, at 20, I wanted children. And now at 40, I've decided that I don't want to put my body and myself and through that. So that was a sacrifice I had to make as well. And the advice that I would give to someone is figure out you, right? Like my desire for a family or what a family looked like in my for 15 years was based on the person that I was dating. If he wanted 5 kids, I wanted 5 kids. If he wanted this, I wanted that because I didn't know who I was. So my advice is to figure out who you are first and foremost and what that looks like for you. What is your ideal of a family, of a lifestyle, of a career? And then once you figure that out, then go for that. And know that when you meet someone, if that's your goal and it's your desire, you're not going to have to slow down for this person. This person is going to match that stride because y'all are going to be able to hold each other accountable in that aspect. So don't if you want to buy a house, buy a house. If you want to, go on a mission trip, but go on a mission trip. If you want to, sell everything and move into a tent, sell everything. Like what, like don't hold off on your life because you're waiting for this next step. Do the things that you have on your heart right now and desire that, and know that when and if a family or a marriage comes along and that's what you want, then you won't be looking back with regret saying, I wish I would have done these things while I was waiting, right? So decorate your single life, get comfortable in it, and then when and if that the next phase comes along, then you're on that path already.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I love all of that. And thank you so much, ladies. To sum it up for me, the things that are just sticking out is just figuring out who you are, determining what is all to you, get comfortable with what is your all, right? And go for those things by being balanced and, well, first being intentional and having balance with within all that, whatever your choice and decision is. So I thank you all for being here. I want to give you guys an opportunity to share your businesses, any handles, how people can get in touch with you, and anything that may be coming up in this coming up soon. So Ren, I'll go ahead and let you go first, and then we'll circle around.
Well, I am bringing to the close the first functional year of Parsons Place, which is a shared community living program for those in need and transition and supportive services. It is a residential program that provides wraparound services. And so we are closing our first functional year up at the end of December. So, I'm excited about that. I have also just started, I work from home, so I'm always, trying to figure out how I can get paid for stuff I already do. So I've just got certified to be a travel agent. So I am building a page and stuff for that. So I'm looking forward to starting to book people's family vacations and take advantage of those things that we want to do, right? And I also I have a couple of different cars that I rent out on Turo. And so you can find all of those things from my Facebook page.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Neshaszda?
Yes. So I'm so happy that I was on this talk tonight. It was so refreshing and so fun to be able to hear everyone's perspective and really like standing on our ground. So I really love that. You guys can find me on social media. I am a wedding photographer and creative and short film producer. So if you guys have any stories you want to tell, somebody that's getting married, be sure to hit me up. My photography page is Neshaszda Z Photography. So you guys can definitely find me on there and all of my hashtags. You can also find me on TikTok. I Fly Delta. All my brides be doing TikToks. We be lit. So you already know it's good.
That's right.
On I Fly Delta, that's my personal page where you can see my family, my husband, and me just having a good time. So those are my personal page and my business page. Things that I have coming up, stay tuned. So my ultimate goal is to be able to produce my first short film and my first like real short film. So look out for that. I'm gonna be telling stories. So next year, most definitely, you'll see me on the big screen somewhere, Netflix. So when you see Neshaszda, just know.
Know what it is. You see her first here on Talks With Me.
Exactly. We're speaking into existence.
That's right. 2023 gonna be lit.
That's right. Last but not least, just believe in yourself. I think it's really important just to believe in yourself. Whatever you want to do, take that first step and God will have your back. So that's it.
Yes. Definitely shout out to the photography is dope. It is dope. So you make sure you check it out. I'm like, ooh, this is it's like a movie, especially that last one that I commented on. I was like, ooh, there was a little sexy little thing with the couple through the window. I said, nighttime photo shoot. That's
yes, that's right. Thank you so much.
And Miss LaVonia.
Yes. So my handles are all LaVonia Tryon. So my website, my blog, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, keeping it easy. It's LaVonia Tryon. You can connect with me for individual coaching, counseling, content creation, as well as courses that I created as well. I deal with women in trauma and healing and becoming the love that you're looking for. And so coming up in the 2023 year, the Sister Circle is coming back in January. So that is a call that we will be doing. It'll be bi-weekly this year, but what we'll be doing is we get together for an hour and we just talk and we just chat. We typically have a topic, but then we just kind of go. It's usually geared towards single women, but we've had married women that have come on and said, hey, I just need some sisters. And we love it. So everyone is welcome. And sometimes it's even.
Oh no. Okay, well, we are frozen here. Not frozen at the end. Well, I thank you, ladies, for being here. I was going to mention her boothing boxes. I'm not for sure she's going to do it again for Valentine's Day, but this year she did her boothing, because that's her thing, is Hey, boo things. I'm LaVonia from Texas, And so she made these boo thing boxes, and it had all these little words of affirmation, little trinkets and gifts, candles, tea tree candles, 2 free sessions with her in the box therapy sessions. It had all kinds of goodies in there. And I got one for my little sister because, that's my baby. That's my boo thing, So I got one for her, just something to kind of like, reaffirm yourself and stay uplifted in your single time. LaVonia, I was going to ask you if you were doing your boo thing boxes in February for Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So,
thank you for saying that. Yes, y'all, I'm traveling, and so my internet is kind of out. But yes, boo thing boxes. That's coming out this year. It is a box that is catered towards single women, but it's women loving on women. So I actually had married women sending it to each other, but it's or sending it to themselves. But it's a box full of self-care, self-love items that is sent out to you for Valentine's Day. I had women sending it to themselves, and so it's just a beautiful thing. And this year it's actually going to be it's going to be tailored. So I'll have more than just Valentine's Day. I will have just some self-care kit. I actually did a couple with bridesmaids, and they the bride gave them to their bridesmaids. So I'm going
That's a great gift.
Yeah, I'm going to balance them out this year and branch them out to special occasions. So thank you.
Love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I'm excited. Thank you. This has just been a pleasure. There's been some little nuggets I was writing down. I was like, that's good. We're gonna go back to that one. So I thank you guys. And for the audience, thank you so much for being here with us this evening before your Christmas holidays. I hope everyone is safe and just, has a good time, enjoys your family. And we will be back in 3 weeks for our next episode 5, and this will be on accountability. Don't try and miss this one. Show up. It's a part of your healing. It's the struggles and the challenges category. So show up. We'll see you then on January 8th, and then we'll go into the triggers next on the 22nd. So thank you guys again, and Merry Christmas to everyone, and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, ladies.
See ya.
Thank you.